Should constitutional rights be absolute? Hi everyone, today I'd like to discuss one of the most important questions in constitutional law. Should constitutional rights be absolute? Most democratic constitutions guarantee fundamental rights such as freedom of speech, freedom of religion, privacy, and the right to a fair trial. These rights protect individuals from arbitrary government power and form the foundation of a free society. Because they are called fundamental rights, some people believe they should never be restricted under any circumstances. Supporters of this view argue that constitutional rights lose their meaning if governments can limit them whenever doing so seems convenient. History provides many examples of governments that justified censorship, surveillance, or political oppression by claiming that such measures were necessary for national security or public order. Once governments gain the authority to limit fundamental rights too easily, those restrictions often expand beyond their original purpose. For this reason, strong constitutional protections are essential. However, others argue that no constitutional right can be completely unlimited. Consider freedom of speech. Most democratic societies protect political criticism and public debate, yet very few protect direct threats of violence, fraud, or speech intended to incite immediate criminal acts. Likewise, freedom of movement may be restricted during public health emergencies. Property rights may be limited when governments acquire land for essential public infrastructure, provided that fair compensation is given. These examples suggest that rights often conflict with other important values. One person's freedom may interfere with another person's right. A government, therefore, faces the difficult task of balancing competing constitutional interests. Modern constitutional courts often resolve these conflicts during using the principle of proportionality. Under this principle, restrictions on fundamental rights are permitted only when they pursue a legitimate public objective, are necessary to achieve that objective, and interfere with individual rights no more than required. This approach does not treat rights as absolute. Instead, it recognizes that constitutional values sometimes compete and must be balanced carefully. In my opinion, constitutional rights deserve the highest level of protection because they prevent governments from abusing their power. Nevertheless, treating every right as completely absolute may create practical and legal difficulties. Limited restrictions may sometimes be justified, but only under strict constitutional safeguards, independent judicial review, and clear legal standards. The burden should always remain on the government to demonstrate why restricting a fundamental right is truly necessary. Ultimately, the strength of a constitution is measured not by how easily it limits freedom, but by how carefully it protects liberty while addressing genuine public needs. So here's my question for you. Do you believe constitutional rights should remain absolute, or should governments be allowed to limit them when important public interests are at stake? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for listening. See you next time.